Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the 27th episode in the Science and History series. This is the part 2, the last part of civilization discussion that we started in the previous, the 26th episode. In part 1, we discussed how agriculture provided the seed of civilization, and in this, we will see how humans expanded into communities from farms to cities. For most of human history, humans moved. They followed animals, they searched for water, they gathered fruits, roots, and seeds. And when seasons changed, they moved again. The world itself shaped human life, but slowly something changed. In different parts of the world, small groups of human beings began staying in one place longer than before, near rivers, near fertile lands, near places where crops could grow. At first, these settlements were small, a few homes, a few families, a few storage pits for grain. But these simple villages would slowly change the future of humanity. Because once humans stopped constantly moving, they began changing not just the land, but each other. Imagine a small farming village thousands of years ago. Smoke rises from cooking fires, children run between mud houses, grain dries in the sunlight, animals are tied nearby, people return from fields carrying tools and baskets. Life is still difficult. Floods can destroy crops, drought can bring hunger, disease is poorly understood, but something important has changed. People now live together permanently. Homes are no longer just temporary shelters. Villages become places of memory. Children grow up in the same location. Families remain connected across generations. Elders pass down experience and stories. For the first time in human history, knowledge started accumulating in one place. This changed everything. A moving society carries knowledge mostly in memory, but a settled society can build upon the work of previous generations. A house can be improved, a field can be expanded, an irrigation channel can be repaired and extended. Each generation leaves something behind for the next. And slowly, human communities begin growing more complex. Agriculture did more than provide food. It allowed more people to survive in the same area. A successful field could feed many individuals. Stored grain could support families during difficult seasons. Permanent settlements provided greater stability for raising children. Over time, populations increased. Villages became larger. More homes appeared. More land was cultivated. And with large communities came new challenges. People now had to cooperate on a scale humans had not experienced before. Water had to be shared. Fields had to be organized. Food storage had to be protected. Disagreements became more common. Who owns this land? Who receives water first? Who guards the stored grain? Human society was becoming more interconnected. And as communities grew, simple cooperation slowly evolved into organized systems. For most of human history, nearly everyone spent much of their time searching for food. But agriculture slowly changed that. When farming became productive enough, not everybody needed to grow food anymore. Some people began making tools, others shaped pottery, some built homes, some worked with metals, others traded goods between settlements. This was the beginning of specialization. Civilization began when humans produced enough food for some people to do something other than find food. This may sound simple, but was probably one of the greatest turning points in human history because specialization allows knowledge and skill to deepen. A person who spends years shaping clay becomes a better potter. A person who works constantly with stone or metal develops new techniques. Builders learn how to create stronger structures. Human knowledge starts expanding faster. And as people depend more on one another's skills, communities become more connected and organized. No single person can now do everything alone. Civilization slowly becomes a network of cooperation. Villages did not remain isolated forever. Some regions had better soil, some had valuable stone, some produced salt, others had metals, wood, animals, or pottery. People began exchanging goods. At first, perhaps between neighboring settlements, then slowly over greater distances. Trade routes started forming. Grain moved from one region to another. Tools were exchanged. Pottery traveled far from where it was made. But trade carrying something even more important than objects. It carried ideas. New farming methods spread between communities. New tools appeared in distant regions. Stories, beliefs, and techniques moved with travelers. Human settlements were no longer isolated islands. They were becoming connected worlds. As villages became larger, human relationship became more complicated. Small groups can often function through personal trust and memory, but larger communities require organization. Someone must help settle disputes. Someone must organize shared work. Someone must oversee irrigation systems or food storage. Slowly, different forms of leadership emerged. Not always kings, not always rulers with great power, sometimes elders, sometimes councils, sometimes religious leaders, sometimes powerful families. Rules also became more important because without cooperation, large settlements become unstable. As societies grew larger, human systems grew more organized. And over time, these systems became governments, administrations, and institutions. For thousands of years, human knowledge survived mostly through speech and memory. But as settlements grew larger, memory alone was no longer enough. Farmers needed to track grain, traders needed records of exchange, leaders needed ways to organize resources, and slowly writing emerged. At first, writing may not have been poetry or literature, it may simply have been marks and symbols used to record information. How much grain was stored? Who traded what? How much land was cultivated? But this changed humanity forever because now knowledge could survive outside the human mind. Information could travel across generations with greater accuracy. Writing allowed ideas to outlive individual people. And once humans could preserve information reliably, civilization accelerated. Over many centuries, some settlements grew into towns, and some towns eventually became cities. In places like ancient Mesopotamian civilization, along the Nile in ancient Egyptian civilization, and within the great urban centers of the Indus Valley civilization, humans began creating environments unlike anything before. Large populations lived together permanently. Roads appeared, markets expanded, walls were built, temples rose above settlements, water systems became more advanced. For the first time in history, humans were reshaping entire landscapes to fit organized human systems. Cities became centers of trade, culture, religion, learning, and power. But this also introduced new problems. Crowded settlements allowed disease to spread more easily. Inequality became more visible. Power became concentrated in fewer hands. Civilization brought great achievements, but also new struggles. Civilization transformed human life. It created stability that early humans rarely experienced. Food storage reduced some forms of uncertainty. Architecture became more advanced. Art, music, mathematics, and astronomy developed further. People now had the ability to cooperate on enormous projects, irrigation canals, walls, roads, monuments. But civilization also changed social relationships. Not everyone had equal power. Not everyone owned land. Not everyone benefited equally from growing societies. Wars became larger. Resources became contested. Social classes became more visible. Human communities had become powerful, but also more complicated. Civilization was not simply a story of progress, it was a story of trade offs. Despite the fear of making this video longer, I thought that adding some concrete examples of earlier civilizations would help in providing memorable historical anchors to an otherwise too conceptual narration. So, as an afterthought, I am adding this section on examples of some of the earliest civilizations. As villages grew into towns and towns slowly became cities, some of the world's earliest civilizations began emerging. This did not happen in only one place. In different regions of the world, human societies were independently becoming larger, more organized, and more complex. And these civilizations mostly formed near rivers because rivers provided water, fertile soil, transportation, and the ability to support large populations. Mesopotamia. One of the earliest known civilizations emerged in a region called Mesopotamia, in the lands between the Tigris and the Euphrates River, in parts of present day Iraq and nearby areas. Beginning more than 5,000 years ago, small farming settlements there gradually grew into some of the world's first cities. People built irrigation canals to bring river water into their fields. Trade connected different settlements. Large temples and public buildings appeared. Some of the earliest known forms of writing also developed here. At first, writing was often used for practical purposes, recording grain, trade, and resources. But over time, it became a way to preserve stories, laws, and knowledge. Mesopotamia was not one single empire at first. It was a collection of multiple city-states, cities that governed themselves. Places like Ur, Uruk, and Babylon became important centers of trade and culture. Today, archaeologists still uncover clay tablets, tools, walls, and ruins from these ancient cities, revealing how humans first began living in a large, organized urban societies. Egypt. Around the same period, another great civilization was flourishing along the Nile River in northeastern Africa. This was ancient Egypt. Unlike many rivers that flooded unpredictably, the Nile flooded in regular seasonal cycles, enriching the surrounding soil with fertile mud. This allowed farming communities to grow steadily for thousands of years. Over time, villages expanded into powerful cities and kingdoms connected by the Nile. Ancient Egyptian civilization became known for its organized government, large construction projects, writing system, and monumental architecture. Even today, structures like the pyramids and temples of Egypt continue to amaze the modern world. But behind these monuments was something even more important: a highly organized society capable of coordinating enormous number of people over long periods of time. The Nile was not just a river, it was a lifeline of an entire civilization. The Indus Valley Civilization. At around the same time, another remarkable civilization emerged in South Asia, along the Indus River and nearby regions, in areas that are now part of Pakistan and northwest India. This was the Indus Valley Civilization. Cities such as Mohenjo-daro and Harappa developed nearly 4500 years ago. What makes this civilization especially fascinating is its level of urban planning. Many streets were laid out in organized patterns. Homes were built with standardized bricks. Some cities had drainage and water management system far ahead of their time. Trade connected the Indus Valley with distant regions, including Mesopotamia. And although much about this civilization remains mysterious, we have still not been able to decipher its uh, uh, writing, its language. Its ruins show evidence of a highly organized and cooperative urban society. You'll be shocked to know we have not found any trace of any weapon there. This is the first, really. Even today, the remains of these ancient cities continue to reshape our understanding of early human civilization. Okay, so this completes the examples. Now back to the main video. How do we know what these early societies were like? Because they left traces behind: ancient homes, broken pottery, tools, seeds, bones, buried walls, irrigation systems. Archaeologists study these remains carefully. Sometimes entire cities are discovered beneath sand and soil. Ancient writing provides clues about trade, laws, religion, and daily life. Even tiny details can reveal important information. A grain of wheat, a clay tablet, a cooking pot. Together, these fragments help us reconstruct the story of civilization. For millions of years, humans adapted themselves to nature, but slowly humans began adapting nature to themselves. Fields replaced forests, villages replaced temporary camps, roads connected settlements, cities rose beside rivers. Human beings were no longer simply surviving in nature, they were building human made worlds. Villages became towns, towns became cities, and cities became civilization. The story of humanity had entered a new chapter. This concludes this episode. Please do provide your feedback through the comment section below, and if not already, please do subscribe to the channel. And in the end, as always, thanks for watching. Stay curious and Allah Hafiz.